Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, boys and girls, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this Thursday. How you doing today? Hope you listened to President Trump's address to the nation last night. It was short and sweet, about 9 minutes, and it had to do with border security. And so I thought I'd talk a little bit about that today before I get into my main topic of discussion. Trump is a Jesuit. Well, he's not a priest, but he is following the Jesuit command. The Jesuit command requires that you play a game with the American people, Donald. You're the MAGA, which is Make America Great Again. While at the same time, half the country want to destroy America. And so they play this game. Now, what is the synthesis? Somebody asked me the other day, Greg, okay, I believe in the Hegelian dialectic. There's the Republicans on one side, the Democrats on the other. They both work together. What is their goal with this border problem, which seems to be a very good issue for people who don't believe in the Hegelian dialectic? And let me explain why. My dogs are trying to explain it to you. They even know. Okay, like I said, if you don't believe in Hegelian dialectic, this fight going on in Washington, you can't ignore it. It's on every station, every radio station, is a perfect example of how these two groups take an issue. I'm talking about the left and the right, and then they fight over it, and then they get their way. Okay, so the point is, if you look at this issue, border security, now they're fighting over $5.2 billion to fund an extension of a barrier that exists in, you can see it in San Diego right now. They've built a barrier already. And I pass it many, many times. Just the other day I was driving and I saw like 10 people trying to jump the wall. And it needs to be fortified because it's dangerous. And I was watching these people, coyotes and all these people in Honduras that are working. You know, much of this money is funded, these George Soros organizations, to get these people over here to Tijuana. There's thousands of them. And then this border security needs to be fortified because I'm watching this. I drove the other day down the highway to get into Tijuana from Chula Vista. And you can see these people camped out at certain places, and then they try to get over the wall at certain points. And what they're doing is they're putting like rocks and boxes and things to get to a certain point, and then they bring their 2 or 3 year old children and they're passing them down over the wall. This is going on right now. I saw it with my very own eyes. Now, people say, well, people want to get into the United States. How can... Let's talk about what is holding up this, what's causing this partial government shutdown where they say 800,000 people aren't going to get their checks as of Friday. Okay. Some government contractors haven't got them. What's holding it up? Okay, Trump says, all I want is $5.2 billion, and that sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. And let me give you an example why. I'm not going to give you a government example. Let me give you a baseball example. Did you realize this year was the first year since 2010 that baseball, they combined all the salaries in Major League Baseball? It went down. Guess what it went down to? Major League Baseball players, there's 32 teams. The combined salaries was $4.2 billion last year. Do you believe that? The average Major League Baseball player makes $4 million. Okay, so Trump is asking $5.2 billion to secure the borders for everybody, which isn't unreasonable when you consider the budget is trillions and trillions. I mean, Obama gave away more to the Iranians than that. We're sending more foreign aid to fund abortions for that, billions for that. But the issue comes up and Trump says, look, we need border security. Okay. Everybody realizes that America is a country of immigrants. We don't mind illegal immigration, but when illegal immigration becomes to a point where, there's over 20 million illegals in America, it's got to be dealt with. Many are working. Many use false IDs. For example, they use social security numbers, false IDs. Now, if I went into a place, to a bank, and used a false social security number and false IDs, I get caught, it's a felony. And I would be prosecuted, and I'm an American citizen. But how come no one's dealing with this issue on all these people that have these documents? Seems like a double standard. Now, the point I'm trying to make is it's pretty obvious that people are coming, they're saying that about 2,000 people get into the country from the southern border every day. And how do they do it? Well, when you go to San Diego, it's pretty difficult. They've built an extension to the wall, so it's hard to get over. But they keep going and going and going to where there's no wall, then they get in, right? In many of the areas between California, Texas, once you start going to that, down the line to east in America. So it makes sense to put up a structure that will stop that. One, stop illegal drugs. Two, stop the MS-13 gangs. Stop criminals from coming in. You'd like that, right? And then three, don't make it so dangerous for innocent people who are told in Honduras and other places that, hey, you pay us some money, we'll get you here and we get you into America. But it's becoming a dangerous proposition. Many don't go to Texas because there's a lot of private property and they're shot. I don't condone that, but it's it's getting to a point where we need to deal with this. Now, in 2006, the head of the Democratic Party, Chuck Schumer, etc., Nancy Pelosi, the whole gang, voted with, the Democratic presidents for a barrier. They wanted to spend more money, like $26 billion at one point, but they did fund the fencing wall, act. So why are they not giving $5 billion to Donald Trump, which is less than what they were doing before, to secure the barrier? Every one of our Border Patrol agents says it's needed. And not only that, but it's something that you need to get started. Then you have other ways to stop the illegal trafficking. Well, the point is, both these organizations, this government shutdown, is a perfect example of they don't want to do this. And I'm talking about Trump and the Democrats. They do not want to secure these borders. Otherwise, it would be a no-brainer. Trump puts in, I just want 5.2. We'll start working on it. We'll make it more difficult. And let's have a nice day. And the Democrats say, hey, 5.2 ain't bad. We were going to give $26 billion at one point. We supported border fencing. But all of a sudden, this whole issue comes up. 800,000 people are out of work in America and in, federal government. Go find another job outside. The federal government's too big anyway. But they do this for one reason and one reason alone, because they do not want, even Trump, he says he wants to secure the border, but the way to not secure it is to work with your Democratic colleagues behind the scenes in this little room that they have that's connected to Georgetown University and the Jesuits, where they say, hey, this is a perfect way to get our way in the end. You say that you're for border security. You say you're against the wall. Now, everybody listen to that speech, and I'm going to play it for you because a lot of people on my show don't listen to mainstream news. It's kind of like if they listen to it, they're going to fall over dead. because it's repellent. It's like it's like, I'm not going to go get stung by a bee because I know I'm going to die if I get stung by a bee. Because I've been stung by a bee, and that's what a doctor told me. So if they listen to this, they've told, if I listen to one more mainstream news, I'm going to keel over from a heart attack. So they don't listen. Well, what I'm getting at here is that both sides, one takes the position against border security, the other takes the position for it. But they both say they're for border security, but why aren't they doing anything? In the meantime, guess what's happening? These cartels work with the government, the CIA, etc. And these people, they say, hey, we better get in there now before they really do something. Well, don't worry, they're never going to do anything. They say they will, but they never will. But here's the deal. If they weren't playing the Hegelian dialectic, this would be a no-brainer. And they'd work together to secure the border. But they've had years to do this. Why do you think it's the way it is today? Because they never wanted to. Trump is making it an issue. But in a sense, in the end, you're going to get no border security in America anyway. So let's look at what's going on. We got over 20 million. They don't know how many people are here illegally. So how do they even know? When people make arguments, well, they're not a threat. We don't, then people point out how many illegal aliens kill Americans. And then the argument is, well, Americans kill Americans. Well, nobody cares. I mean, look, we all don't want to kill others, right? Well, good people don't want others to kill others. They don't care where they come from. But you can't have a country, really, without a border. Otherwise, you're going to have what? A New World Order, right? New World Order. Got a little glitch there. Yes, and that's what they want. So they want a borderless world where people can come in and out and they can do what they want because they do not want national sovereignty. But to get that, they have to have this crazy battle going on with Trump. This will lead to no borders. This will lead to American fascism and socialism. This is the way to do it. They know that. They've been doing this many years in other countries. They bring two groups to the forefront. They want to know. So we got 50% of America, I'm generalizing, that wants to protect America's sovereignty. The other half are talking like globalists. If you listen to the Democrats now, all these new congressmen coming in, and who is going to win in the end? Right, the globalists. And this is the last vestige of American sovereignty, and you're seeing it right now. So this issue points it out. Now, we're at a standstill. And over what? I just explained it. Nothing. We're over, and how do the Democrats now support their issue? Well, they say that a wall is 4th century, engineering. It never works. But they were for it just years ago. The reason they're not for anything like a wall or anything is because Trump is there. And this is what they're doing. They know Trump. They, after the lights are out and the people go to sleep, they're down there with the Jesuits all working together. And I am convinced that this sets the stage for a lot of other things that are going to lead to a global system in this country, which are going to change this country dramatically. Okay, now, so people ask me, Greg, well, how do they benefit by doing this? What's going to happen? What's the synthesis here? The synthesis is going to be that down the line, some way, somehow, they're going to create chaos right now, and it's going to lead to more open borders, no matter what. That's what's going to happen. But you got to have this chaotic situation going on today. So let me play Trump's speech from last night, because if you haven't heard it, you're going to hear a lot of things like border security, things like this. This is the Hegelian dialectic on the side of Make America Great Again. The other side is completely different, is there is no crisis, open borders, etc. Did you hear what New York and California are doing? On the same day this came out, we have the new governor of California basically saying Come to California, you're going to get everything free, free health care, sanctuary cities, the whole state is sanctuary, we're not going to arrest you. Come to California. Now, California was the leading state in losing population, but how many came in that you're not counted? So they're losing middle-class population because you can't afford to live in California. About, 180,000 people left last year. So that's what's going on with socialist Governor Newsom. They're going to bankrupt California, even though California now is said to have a surplus of money, which is interesting. What are they going to spend it on? Try to go to San Francisco. You know, there's even a website now in San Francisco. There's an app you can get and a website that shows you where to go where not to step in human feces and poop. True. We got homeless people in America we're not dealing with, American citizens. And they're worried more about people from Honduras. I mean, come on. Then go to New York. Guess what? Mayor de Blasio, there, another socialist, said that anybody that sets foot in New York, as of what is it going to be, 2020 or 2021, is going to get free health care. Doesn't matter who you are, illegal, legal. And I said, well, can I just jump on an airplane, come to New York, and take care of my gallbladder operation? Not that I'm having one, but I'm just giving an example. What is the criteria? Is it if you're illegal, you go to New York, it's okay, but if I'm from Ohio, I can't. Right? Does that make sense to you? Absolutely not. So they're going to bankrupt New York. New York was the second state that lost more citizens last year, they say. And that's what? Another globalist, socialist-run state. What was the third state? Illinois, my home state. They were the third state that lost the most amount of people last year. And they're all middle-class people, most likely, because the same thing's happening in Chicago and in Illinois. So there you see it. Now, what's going to happen? Pretty soon, the whole country is going to be that way. And that's the Jesuit way. Let me see. Did I say I was going to play Trump's speech? Yes, I did. So let me do that. I don't want you to hear it, too, so I'm going to put it here. But this was his speech from last night, from the Oval Office, his first address to the nation. And, you know, I've watched them all over the years, starting with Kennedy and going on. I've watched them all. He does a pretty decent job. I mean, did a nice 9-minute speech as a president. And I thought he was better than George Bush, who had trouble speaking, but is now an artist, working at home, drawing paintings. Good for you, George. And I thought he was even better than Bill Clinton. Believe it or not. Oh, my goodness. Yes, the great actor, Bill Clinton. But anyway, here we go.
My fellow Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border. Every day, Customs and Border Patrol agents encounter thousands of illegal immigrants trying to enter our country. We are out of space to hold them, and we have no way to promptly return them back home to their country. America proudly welcomes millions of lawful immigrants who enrich our society and contribute to our nation. But all Americans are hurt by uncontrolled illegal migration. It strains public resources and drives down jobs and wages. Among those hardest hit are African Americans and Hispanic Americans. Our southern border is a pipeline for vast quantities of illegal drugs, including meth, heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl. Every week, 300 of our citizens are killed by heroin alone, 90% of which floods across from our southern border. More Americans will die from drugs this year than were killed in the entire Vietnam War. In the last 2 years, ICE officers made 266,000 arrests of aliens with criminal records, including those charged or convicted of 100,000 assaults, 30,000 sex crimes, and 4,000 violent killings. Over the years, thousands of Americans have been brutally killed by those who illegally entered our country, and thousands more lives will be lost if we don't act right now. This is a humanitarian crisis, a crisis of the heart and a crisis of the soul. Last month, 20,000 migrant children were illegally brought into the United States, a dramatic increase. These children are used as human pawns by vicious coyotes and ruthless gangs. 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted on the dangerous trek up through Mexico. Women and children are the biggest victims, by far, of our broken system. This is the tragic reality of illegal immigration on our southern border. This is the cycle of human suffering that I am determined to end. My administration has presented Congress with a detailed proposal to secure the border and stop the criminal gangs, drug smugglers, and human traffickers. It's a tremendous problem. Our proposal was developed by law enforcement professionals and border agents at the Department of Homeland Security. These are the resources they have requested to properly perform their mission and keep America safe. In fact, safer than ever before. The proposal from Homeland Security includes cutting-edge technology for detecting drugs, weapons, illegal contraband, and many other things. We have requested more agents, immigration judges, and bed space to process the sharp rise in unlawful migration fueled by our very strong economy. Our plan also contains an urgent request for humanitarian assistance and medical support. Furthermore, we have asked Congress to close border security loopholes so that illegal immigrant children can be safely and humanely returned back home. Finally, as part of an overall approach to border security, law enforcement professionals have requested $5.7 billion for a physical barrier. At the request of Democrats, it will be a steel barrier rather than a concrete wall. This barrier is absolutely critical to border security. It's also what our professionals at the border want and need. This is just common sense. The border wall would very quickly pay for itself. The cost of illegal drugs exceeds $500 billion a year, vastly more than the $5.7 billion we have requested from Congress. The wall will also be paid for indirectly by the great new trade deal we have made with Mexico. Senator Chuck Schumer, who you will be hearing from later tonight, has repeatedly supported a physical barrier in the past, along with many other Democrats. They changed their mind only after I was elected president. Democrats in Congress have refused to acknowledge the crisis, and they have refused to provide our brave border agents with the tools they desperately need to protect our families and our nation.
Okay, I'm going to end that there. I got about a minute here before the end of the break, and my take on this is don't be duped by this speech. It sounds good. It sounds like that's what he wants. But why is this the barrier there with the Democrats who have supported it in the past? Because they got together with their Jesuit friends and decided that to use this issue, which exemplifies the Hegelian dialectic that they know the American people, 90% of them, will not catch on to. But we have figured it out here on the Investigative Journal, that even though Donald Trump says he's for border security, he's not. The Democrats are the barrier needed to get globalism in full swing in America. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, back for the second half hour. And opposing the Jesuit command that you just heard on that promo, the high-level Jesuit command who says, you cannot talk this way, Greg. If you do, we're going to marginalize you, and until you get with it and join the New World Order, come on over to Georgetown and sit with us in that little tunnel area they have between the White House and Georgetown, where they get together secretly and decide the fate of all the American slaves. I said, no, I'm not coming until you pay me better. And they'll never do that. The only way you get paid is if you keep the truth about the Jesuit order and the Vatican satanic minions working together with the government of the United States, Russia, China, you name it, to create a one world government, a one world order. See how neatly we put that? Quickly. Hey, I've got to talk about a couple things here before we get to Trump is a Jesuit. Not a priest, but working for them. Okay. Yesterday I did a show on the flat earth. And as fate may have it, last night I was just flipping through the channels, sitting on the couch with my 5 dogs. Yes, it's very much, they keep you warm on a cold winter night. And I'm perusing the movie channels, and one caught my attention. Do you remember when Obama was president? Oh my God, yeah. And I believe he gave the Medal of Honor to a very nice 97-year-old black woman. Her name, I think Catherine something. And she was supposedly a genius mathematician for NASA that did all the trajectory math calculations to get, John Glenn and those people up in orbit. Okay? And then this was during Obama. I don't know if she's still alive. Nice woman. And this is nothing against her. And the whole movie, so they did a movie on her now. And Kevin Costner was in it. He was the NASA head. And they were reliving how they sent John Glenn up. And she did all the trajectory math calculations to do this. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I did the Flat Earth show. And any logical, sane person watches that with the background that I have in the Flat Earth goes, my God, they didn't even go up there. So how did this woman get duped? Or was she in it? I mean, come on, they're doing huge calculations on a blackboard. So they must have this whole thing of the universe mapped out for them. And speeds, and they're even talking about where they're going to land within a 20-mile radius of the Bahamas and how they had to do that. And it's an incredible story, but when you realize they didn't even do it, you start wondering, how do they get away with this? How do they do this? And, then they even showed a picture of Kennedy going, we're going to the moon, because the Russians just sent Yuri Gagarin into the, was the first man in space, right? Oh, God. And so then I started thinking, Kennedy knew this was a problem too, right? He knew the Earth was flat. He had to. Or was he duped? How deep does this go? We've got to get to the bottom of this. I mean, don't you really want to know how many people know it and how many people don't in our government? How many people you think know it? Did Kennedy know it? Did Catherine, this beautiful black woman who was given a Medal of Honor for all her math trajectories, but they didn't even need them because they never went. And I want to know how they do this. I really do. I'm not smart enough to figure it out. I can give you my theory on how they do it. A few people can hide a lot from many people if they do things the proper way. I know that. And we also know NASA is run by, all of the Nazis that came over, started this thing, and NASA controls everything we know about our universe that, and they always make it so complicated. Like, an average person cannot figure out. And they had these mathematicians and all these signs and, x plus 3 equals this. And there's an oblique orbit, there's this. And none of this stuff exists. It's amazing. And then you go, well, how do you know? And I was watching it with my 5 dogs, and 3 of them believe in the flat earth, 2 don't yet. And I'm talking with them as, we're doing the movie, and they're going, you know something, Greg? See, even President Kennedy knew the earth there's a universe, and I'm trying to convince my 2 older dogs that this is a flat earth. And they're still going, no, it isn't, Greg. And I said, oh, you really don't want to believe me? Then who's going to feed you tomorrow? Oh, then they started thinking, well, we'll think about it, Greg. And so 3 of mine, the younger ones, have now come aboard and are flat earth dogs. And they realize that they're not spinning around like a whirling dervish. I like that word. They used to use it 20, 30 years ago. Nobody uses whirling dervish anymore. Does anybody know what it really means, the meaning of it? Whirling dervish, I like to say it. But anyway, so that's the issue on the flat earth. That movie was quite interesting because it made me think about it, and it was quite, as fate may have it, it was on last night. Okay, so Trump is a Jesuit. How am I going to prove that? I'm not. I'm not going to attempt it because they're going to come back and say, you're crazy. He's not. He's a builder. He's a Freemason. You know that. And it's not hard to draw these connections with people. You can probably go down his list of people that he's close to, and they're all Jesuit trained, affiliated, etc., and so on and so forth. But let's look at something here. What did the Jesuits? Let's talk a little bit about them, because people forget. And in the extreme Jesuit oath, it says, "I will This is when you want to be. I always said I know more about them. I should take their last oath because I know more about them than most Jesuit priests do. Most of them, some of them, when they figure out that this is an evil organization, get out. Others, they believe they don't understand who even Ignatius Loyola really was. Okay, but I will, they say in their oath. I'm only going to read you a paragraph. When the opportunity presents itself, make and wage relentless, secretly and openly against all Protestants, war, and liberals, to extirpate, and exterminate them from the face of the whole earth. That's the oath, I'm qualified to take that. I do the rest of them. I'm living with, at my age, the vow of chastity, right? Poverty, well, that's no problem. So I've got all of their prerequisites for this final oath. Come on, guys, give me a call. I'd make a good spy. Yes, I'd make a great spy for you. What do you want me to do? Just name it, man. Every man has his price, right? Okay, the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits, with their sun, they have a sun-worshipping logo. You got to remember, operate in the highest echelons of Jesuit Illuminati, or rather their leaders do. Now, there's a big debate on the internet, who's the top dog in all of this stuff. When they talk about secret societies, Bilderbergs, the, Skull and Bones, etc., I don't really care, because it's all going to lead to Rome anyway, so they're all intermingled, and they're all doing their dirty work together. Is it the Jesuit leadership that controls the Knights of Malta, Knights Templar, Knights of Columbus in the USA, and works closely with other secret orders of the Roman Church, Opus Dei, which was created by the Jesuits? Of course. Society of Jesus was the creation of this guy, Ignatius Loyola, who was born at the castle of Loyola in Basque province. He was a warrior when he was born, province of, I can't pronounce it, in Spain, on Christmas Eve, 1491. He and a group of associates founded the Jesuit order in 1537. It was given papal approval in 1540. From there, it expanded its influence until it reached its present status as one of the most powerful secret organizations on this earth. Yes, Loyola became the first general. They call him a general, superior general. Why not call him Father Holiness? Why did they use the general? They're a military organization, also known as the Father General. And they, one of their Jesuit generals was also a founding father, but he didn't want to take credit for it. And he sent his agents far and wide to set up schools, colleges, and seminaries. And they even sent them to China years ago. And there's been information that they may have written Sun Tzu's Art of War. That would really upset the Chinese. They like taking credit for that, don't they? And all these Kung Fu Zen Buddhists or whatever that study Zen, they love to read, Sun Tzu's Art of War. Even many famous basketball coaches, like, remember the Lakers basketball coach who used to do Zen and he used to use Kung Fu or the Sun Tzu's Art of War? And he was thinking it was Chinese. Well, maybe he should figure out that maybe the Jesuits wrote that. They were the first to translate it into French back around Lorenzo Ricci's time. Wouldn't Phil Jackson be interested to know? Or does he know the Jesuits may have wrote that? And he'd probably say, who cares? Look at their great college basketball teams that I can recruit from. At Xavier and Gonzaga. I get some good ball players from there, and I'm not going to rock the boat. Okay, so the Jesuits now have some, 17,000 members in 112 countries, and the worldwide structure consists of a region known as assistancies. Oh, yes, they've divided America up into a nice little neat organization, which are themselves made up of provinces. Superior General is absolute authority and is again chosen for life. Recently, though, everybody seems to be resigning. I remember, who was it? Hans Kolvenbach resigned, and he's roaming around somewhere with ISIS, probably. Then there was Adolfo Nicholas. He resigned. They're all resigning. The Pope resigned. Now we got 2 popes, 2 Jesuses on earth here. Boy, maybe their idea is to keep resign. Maybe they want to get to 10 popes living. And then they can all. How do they reconcile that? I really don't know how people ought to read a book called How the Pope Became Infallible by a former priest who was killed probably because of writing that book from Germany, Mr. Hassler. And once you read that book about how the Pope became infallible, meaning how he became Christ on earth only in the 1800s, that he is Jesus on earth. Nobody told me that when I went to Catholic school. I always knew when I was born a Catholic, and they always told me that the Pope was Jesus on earth, Christ on earth. They didn't tell me, though, that only started in the 1800s. Okay? I thought it was forever, So now, there's these thousands of members all over the world, and America is carved out into nice little provinces, and you would not believe how strong they've become ever since the beginning of our country, when there was only a handful of them here. And Georgetown was the only first university. Now, they're all over the place. Okay. Now, like I said, he has absolute authority, this general, this Jesuit general. Yes, he does. Absolute authority. And the Jesuit constitutions were written by Loyola and created a dictatorship that demanded absolute obedience to the Pope and superiors within the order. And when I say, and people don't believe me, that the government of choice of the Vatican is fascism, they go, oh, impossible. Well, listen, they work with anyone. They love working with dictators, and you just got to really do a little checking. But that is, I believe, a true statement. The example is given of seeing something that is obviously white, but believing it is black if the Catholic hierarchy says it is. And that gives you an idea of what we're up against here. If you talk to Protestants or Bible-believing Christians, they'll tell you the major conflict here between Catholicism and Christianity. And I don't like when Catholics say they're Christians, because they're really not. And I know better because I grew up in it. A lot of pagan worship there, a lot of symbols, a lot of things that you're told to do. That's all pagan when you really look at it. And I was basically doing it thinking I was a Christian. How deceitful. But anyway, you get, the difference really is this. Both the Vatican and Bible-believing Christians, they like the Bible, but Christians say that the Bible is the Word of God and the final authority. The Catholics say that we are the final authority of how to interpret the Bible. You have to come to us. You have to intercede. We intercede with God because we're God on earth. That's the major difference. Okay? So, when you read Bernard Hassler's book on how the Pope became infallible, you see how crazy this is. And it was a Jesuit push to do this when push came to shove. When many of the cardinals, even in the 1800s, did not want this Jesus on earth thing to be a doctrine of the Catholic Church. Now, on top of the Jesuit power structure stands this superior general. Below him is probably the ex-superior general who's still alive. There's 2 of them now. Under him are 4 assistants of the superior general, and 3 of these assistants are also regional assistants. And it's a pretty organized thing. That's why Hitler said, I built the Third Reich. I built the Nazi movement based on the hierarchy, the structure of the hierarchy of the Jesuit and Vatican, And you say he wasn't a Catholic? Come on. His mentor was Pope Pius XII. Below these assistants, there are several regionals, and a total there are 10 assistancies. Below him, there are 6 presidents of conferences, and the list goes on and on. This is probably the power structure in the top of the Jesuits. So we got the superior general, we got ex-superior generals, assistant. Now I'm going to read some things that may have changed. They have assistant president conference European provincials, Mr. John Dardis, assistant, a regional assistant of U.S. and Canada, Douglas Marcour. Excuse me if I mispronounced it. And these names may have changed, but let me just give you an idea of how they're organized. They have an assistant and regional assistant in South Asia, Mr. Vernon D. Cunha. They have a regional assistant in Africa, Mr. Massawe. A regional assistant in, another one in South Asia, Mr. D'Souza. A regional assistant in Pacific Asia. And you're not in China? Yes, they are. Daniel Patrick Huang. A regional assistant in Latin America, can't forget that, Claudio Powell, Claudio Powell. Not too many women here. That's interesting. And why aren't the Democrats coming out and say, hey, this is misogynistic? They got to get some women. And they're the ones that come out and say, Jesuits come out and say that they want to see feminism, gender equality. They don't have anybody here that's a woman that I see. How come nobody brings that up? Okay, the regional assistant in South Europe is Mr. Joaquin Diaz. The regional assistant in West Europe is Mr. Victor Assad. Regional assistant in South America North, Gabriel Ignacio Rodriguez. President Conference U.S. and Canada Provincials, Mr. Timothy Kaseki. I still haven't seen a woman. President Conference South Asia Provincials, George Pattery. President Conference Pacific Asia Provincial. Oh, wait, they're all men's organization. How come nobody bothers to argue with them? Women should be clamoring, say, I want to be a Jesuit priest. Come on, women, come on, you feminists out there. Get on the ball. But they can't criticize their bosses, their satanic bosses. Come on. So we got the President Conference Southeast Asia Provincials, Mr. Pattery. President Conference Pacific Asia Provincials, Mr. Rapper, R-A-P-E-R. President Conference Latin American Provincials, Mr. Jorge Cela. And President Conference African Madagascar Provincials, Mr. Michael Lewis. Oh boy, many, many more, you know. Incredible. Incredible. And somebody just reminded me, sent me a little text. Remember, Greg, the Satanic Church of Rome is the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. You know, how are you going to get anybody to ever believe that? Cool it, my friend. Start slow. Start talking a little slower because people are going to really ostracize you. But he's right. He's right. It's just the way you present it. Another email I got the other day said all the leaders in the world are Jesuits. Okay. No institution on earth has done more against freedom of religion than the Catholic Church. Good point. That's why they got into America. So they could claim freedom of religion, get the Constitution passed, which they did, and then get rid of everybody else. People are ignorant of the history of the Catholic Church, that's true, and its absolute intolerance for Christians who live by conscience. You know, okay, Christians, they do you in too, but you got to remember there's other people here that are getting done in. It's not just Christians. So let's open the doors a little bit here. Left the church. Here's somebody who emailed me. I got to tell you this. Left the church in 1991. And she looked around his parish and realized he was the only one that was bothered about the pedophilia issue. A lot of people go into these churches. You know what I'm really interested, you know, one thing I always said, I remember when I was when they start talking about school shootings and things like that and how unsafe our schools are. You know, I don't know, how do these Catholic parents ever let their kids go to these Catholic schools, knowing that there's probably a pedophilia behind every door? I really don't know. Also, you know, there's so much pedophilia in Catholic schools. How come they haven't shut them down? some of them. I mean, it's incredible. That shows you they work together. You know, it's not only Catholic priests that are pedophiles. There's huge pedophile rings in Washington, etc., at the high levels. And if you remember some of the interviews I used to do on pedophilia, on the human trafficking and the sex slaves, kids taken in at young ages, you know, all those kids on the milk cartons, you know, talking to investigators that have worked on this, they always say this. They get some of these low-level pedophiles, but they know that this goes deep into the heart of the Vatican and the highest levels of Washington and our state governments. But when it gets to that point, it's always the DAs and the Justice Department that shuts down any investigation that's serious to protect who? The pedophiles at the highest levels of our government. So that's the problem. So when you're talking about border security, listen, if I was a Democrat right now, I would say this: don't build a wall. Let's get these guys in Washington out of here, you know. And if we build a wall, it makes it harder for us to throw them out. I guess we could fly them out. But the problem is deeper than just, you know, MS-13 and the gangs and the money and the cartels that, you know, they take an interest in, that they get money from. Remember my interview with one of the mafia people? You know, from the Gambino crime family, and he said he was the godson of Carlo Gambino, highly connected in the Gambino crime family. He says, yes, the mafia, the Vatican, and the government all benefit from the drug trade. Probably more the other two than the mafia bosses. See you tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.